Greetings to you, friends. Welcome to today's devotion. We have Psalm 115. Not to us, O Lord, not to us, but to your name give glory. For the sake of your steadfast love and your faithfulness, why should the nations say, "Where is their God?" Our God is in the heavens. He does whatever he pleases. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of human hands. They have mouths but do not speak, eyes but do not see. They have ears but do not hear, noses but do not smell. They have hands but do not feel, feet but do not walk. They make no sound in their throats. Those who make them are like them. So are all who trust in them. O Israel, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. O house of Aaron, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. You who fear the Lord, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. The Lord has been mindful of us. He will bless us. He will bless the house of Israel. He will bless the house of Aaron. He will bless those who fear the Lord, both small and great. May the Lord give you increase, both you and your children. May you be blessed by the Lord, who made heaven and earth. The heavens are the Lord's heavens, but the earth he has given to human beings. The dead do not praise the Lord, nor do any that go down into silence. But we will bless the Lord. From this time on and forevermore, praise the Lord. We have kind of a hymn of praise here. It seems as though this is a hymn that was used as liturgy in the temple. And so, but it also does sound to some degree like there was some issue, some complaint that was being lifted up to God. If you look at verse 2, why should the nations say, "Where is their God?" The nations referring to those besides the nation of Israel. Some calamity has befallen the people of Israel, and it wasn't prevented by God, or they weren't protected by God. So where is their God if this calamity has fallen upon them? And so then the psalmist goes into a description of what the idols that the pagan people worshipped, and the many and countless idols that pagan people worshipped, and then a reaffirmation or an affirmation of for the people of Israel to trust in God. Repeated three times that trust in the Lord, he is their help and their shield, with reference to Israel, the house of Aaron, which was the priesthood, the royal priesthood, and then the people who fear the Lord, all people. So it basically covers everybody, the nation of Israel twice, and those who aren't of the nation who became converts. But this comparison with the idols and understanding that the pagan gods that were worshipped were often carved into, there was some kind of idol that was used to represent those gods, that's the thing that they would pray for. And it is kind of absurd to think that something that was created by human hands would be representative of a God, lowercase g God. But that's one of the reasons why the commandment was one of the commandments was, we shall not make any graven images of God, which is why we don't have idols, which is why we don't have representations or statues of what God may or may not look like. Because God, like I said in my last devotion, God is just so beyond awesome that it can't possibly be represented by anything that can be carved or made by human hands. It is, again, rather absurd to even think that. But and though we may not be able to necessarily relate to or think that we're not guilty of worshiping idols, because we might think of that literal term of an idol being some kind of statuette or figurine, which surely I'm guessing none of you have in your house, anything that you worship. But we certainly do have things in our world and in our lives that we trust in far too much for the things that God gives to us. Part of the reason is because verse 3 says God does whatever he pleases. God doesn't serve us. We serve God, so when things don't go our way, we just naturally are inclined to look for something that we might have some more control over. And oftentimes it's money or substances, or it's shopping, or it's vanity, the way that we look, our appearance. It's our identity that's based on the job that we have, or some other relationships that we have. Sometimes it's other people that we trust in more than we do God. And quite often it's ourselves that we trust in much more often than we should. And in lieu of trusting in God, again, the problem with that is that God doesn't do what we want him to do. But as I again described in my last devotion, that's a good thing. It's a good thing that God can't be controlled by us, doesn't think like us, doesn't act like we act, and is far greater and more powerful and far greater in wisdom and knowledge than we ever will be individually or even collectively. But we worship different kinds of things and put our trust in them, but they're always going to leave us feeling empty and feeling unfulfilled because, well, they're like the description of these idols. They have mouths but don't speak, and ears and don't hear, and they don't noses and don't smell, etc., etc. They may represent something in our lives, but the truth is they are just objects, or they are material, or they are temporal. In other words, they will perish at some point. They are not eternal, and they are not all powerful and all knowing like our God is, but we find comfort in those things far too often. What we should be doing is what verse 9, 10, and 11 encourage us to do, is to put our trust in the Lord, because he is our true and only help, our truest and most faithful help, and he's our shield, our protector from the things of this world, and certainly from evil and from sin. But submitting and being obedient and giving our trust over completely to God is a very, very difficult thing, but it takes a lifetime of pursuit of that to become more deeply trustworthy, or I guess dependent on who God is and what God has done for us. And that's what really does bring us that sense of peace and joy in our world, and leads us to praise of God for who he is and all he has done for us. So what are the things that you put your trust in? What are the things that you depend on most, that you can't possibly live without, or think that you can't live without? Have you ever thought that God is that thing? God is that entity that you can't possibly live without? And try to imagine a world without God. Try to imagine your life without your faith and what that might be like. Trusting in God as our help and our shield is the best way for us to go, because everything else is temporal and made by human hands and a creation of humanity. So he is that greatest source for all of us. That's our devotion for today. Tomorrow we have Psalm 116. And until then, trust in God.